Xenobots, the world's first living robots. These nanobots are made of living cells of an animal, but they started to show strange behaviors once they were separated from the body. Today you'll learn about Xenobots, which are living robots that can self-replicate. Stay until the very end of this video to learn exactly why robots are scarily more human than you think. In early 2020, a team of scientists from the University of Vermont, Tuft, and Harvard decided to start an experiment. So they gathered some stem cells out of an African clawed frog's embryo and left them to incubate in a petri dish. No DNA modification were done to the cells. If you don't know what stem cells are, these cells are unspecialized cells that have the ability to develop into different types of cells. In a Xenopus laevis, or African clawed frog, these cells develop into skin. These cells would be sitting on the outside of a tadpole, keeping out pathogens and redistributing mucus, said Professor Michale Levin from the research group. Professor Levin was also astounded by the fact that these cells have the genomes of a frog, yet they had the freedom of turning into tadpoles. These cells, after becoming free and independent, have the ability to use collective intelligence and plasticity to do something extraordinary. After a few days, they started to notice that these cells started to get together and become larger multi-cell organisms with the shape of a sphere all on their own. To their surprise, these multi-cell organisms were capable of moving, healing themselves, and self-replicating. But what really made these organisms extraordinary is that they didn't have a brain. The self-replicating method used by these cells have never been observed before at the scale of whole cells or organisms. Instead of choosing an asexual or sexual way to produce offspring, they chose kinematic self-replication. That is gathering into groups and becoming a larger and more biologically capable organism. This method of reproduction does happen at the molecular level, but we are not aware of any organism that can reproduce or replicate in this way, said Professor Michale Levin. These organisms that don't have a brain can develop tiny hair-like structures known as cilia to gain the ability to move around. No brain, but still capable of becoming mobile and reproducing. Now, you may think, what the heck is this guy talking about? And where are the robots now? These tiny organisms are the robots. They really are. Let me explain. According to Professor Josh Bogard, robots are not only made of metal and ceramic, and it's not what a robot is made of, but what it does that makes it a robot. If a thing can act on its own on behalf of people, it is a robot. In this term, these organisms are robots made of genetically unmodified frog cells. These robots are called Xenobots, and they are less than a millimeter in size, or 0.04 inches to be exact. Initially, these Xenobots were made of approximately 3,000 stem cells of African clawed frog. These cells became the world's first living robots. According to the researchers, these Xenobots can be programmed to gather together and absorb other cells. Remember, I said earlier that these organisms can self-replicate? Well, they died after one generation. So the scientists wanted to make these bots live longer and reproduce for more than one generation. But it's not an easy task for a human to go through millions of options to find an optimal body type. That's when scientists turned to AI. They fed the AI program with an evolutionary algorithm and let it run for weeks. The program was able to develop billions of bizarre and simple body shapes for the Xenobots. Finally, the AI program came up with the most optimal body type for the Xenobot. This allowed the bots to be more effective at motion-based reproduction. The final shape of the Xenobots looked like the letter C. Researchers said that they wouldn't even think about coming up with this shape because it's so simple, but it was the most optimal design that greatly increased the number of generations of Xenobots. After that, scientists rebuilt the bots by hand into this C shape, making the birth of the second generation of the Xenobots in 2021. After a while, they found that these bots were able to make 3 to 5 generations of children before they stopped functioning. They started to move around and gather single cells in their mouth-like opening and made multi-cell organisms. But the thing is, these children weren't the same shape as their parents. They returned to the original shape of a sphere. These children are able to grow to a full-size mature Xenobot within 5 days under optimal settings. With this latest discovery, researchers are looking into the future where they will be able to develop regenerative medicine. If we knew how to tell a collection of cells to do what we wanted them to do, ultimately, that's regenerative medicine. That's the solution to traumatic injury, birth defects, cancer, and aging, says Professor Levin. He believes Xenobots are a new platform for teaching us about these problems. Problems we can't predict, like how or what a cell will grow into. They also say we humans need to create a solution that grows at the same rate as the challenges we face. With that statement, they are suggesting bioengineered artificial robots to take care of pandemics and accelerating pollution and so forth. However, the conceptual design of Xenobots and its way of self-replication is not new. In 1966, the influential mathematician John von Neumann, and in 1986, Eric Drexler, a US engineer, referred to the potential of gray goo. In their terms, this gray goo is a sludge-like life form that devoured their surroundings and transformed everything into sludge made of themselves. Even though Eric Drexler introduced the idea of gray goo as a solution to human challenges, it rapidly became a warning term for the risk of developing new biological matter. Proving the potential threat, in 2002, a group of scientists, without the help of AI, developed an artificial poliovirus created from tailored DNA. It was able to self-replicate, and they had capacity to infect and kill mice. But according to researchers, Xenobots are a different matter. This is because Xenobot offspring don't come from the parents. This also means there is no evolution or mutation involved in the reproduction phase. And Xenobots cannot self-replicate without raw cells, so there won't be any potential danger at the current level. With this new discovery, researchers are getting ready to use them as medicine that can live inside our bodies to cure traumatic diseases and as microorganisms that can gather or decompose plastics. But whatever they are used for, scientists believe there is always a chance that things can go wrong quickly. To keep this experiment from getting out of hand, the research program is vetted by federal, state, and institutional ethics. As mentioned, researchers say there is no need to worry because they are not capable of reproducing their offspring without raw stem cells as materials. Do you think these new bots can improve medicine, or is that a terrible idea? For more great tech videos just like these, be sure to hit the subscribe button.